So back in 2013, Google took a gamble on what was at the time considered to be a rather bizarre machine. This is the Chromebook Pixel, and it was different in just about every way from your average $250 Chromebook, being an ultra premium laptop with a price tag of $1,300. And you certainly got what you paid for. This thing shipped with high-end specs, came with an incredible touchscreen display that had a higher pixel density than any other laptop at the time, and it was all housed in an aluminum frame with a glass touchpad and a backlit keyboard. The only downside was it ran Chrome OS, so naturally people ridiculed it a little bit because, to be fair, it did seem a little strange. Chromebooks were selling extremely well at the time because of their low price point. So why would Google release a machine that did the exact opposite of the formula that was working for them? Well, that's what we're going to be discussing today as we unbox this thing and see how it holds up over a decade later. Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. So this right here is what you would have received if you picked up a Chromebook Pixel back in February of 2013, and when you did so you had a choice between two models. There was the Wi-Fi only variant that I have here, as well as one that supported LTE, but that didn't come along until a couple months later for $150 more. And inside this really nice premium feeling box, we've got, well, a rather premium feeling laptop. So this is the Chromebook Pixel itself. We'll come back to that in a moment. And then we also have a couple of accessories. First up is this little Get in Touch card that has a dedicated service and support line that I'm sure is long gone by now. And you have the charging brick itself right here, as well as an adapter or a extension cable for it, rather, that you can plug into it and use it over a longer distance, because that's what extension cables do. But you could totally use the charging brick like this if you so desired. And last but not least, we've got a safety and warranty information booklet, and that is literally it. But there is one more notable thing that came with the Chromebook Pixel, and that was a 3-year subscription to a 1 terabyte Google Drive plan, which, according to a Wired review, actually cost more if you were to buy that outright. So, hey, I mean, if you were planning on storing a whole bunch of stuff in Google Drive for the next few years, it probably made more sense for you just to buy the Chromebook Pixel instead, to save a little money and, get a free computer along with the deal, assuming you could pay all of that up front. Now, as for the Pixel itself, I think that this design holds up really well. This really is a nice premium feeling laptop. It's got a good heft to it, and I really think this could pass for, a modern laptop that would be sold today. It's got this piano hinge on the back that makes it easy to lift the lid with one finger to reveal its 12.89-inch 3x2 239 ppi screen, which was something that Google touted in the product's marketing as being designed for the web, since it gives you more vertical screen space. For ports, you've got power, mini display port, 2 USB 2.0, and an audio jack on the left with an SD card slot on the right. I honestly think that I could use this machine as like a secondary laptop if it ran another operating system, and well, we'll get to that in a moment. Now, as for why this thing exists, well, it really boils down to it being an experimental product. Like I said earlier, this was a gamble for Google because it went against the grain of the cheap Chromebooks that were making Amazon's bestseller list. But that's exactly the point. Back then, and even still today to some extent, Chromebooks weren't really viewed as serious computers. They were the thing you bought your grandmother because all she did was browse the web and check email. With the Pixel, Google completely flipped that upside down and basically said, hey, these things can actually be good. They can have good hardware, a good design. They can be premium machines that don't make sacrifices. Now, yes, the price tag on this thing was hard to justify, but I honestly don't think Google ever anticipated the Pixel selling very well, because it ultimately didn't. But one thing I remember most from back when this thing came out was the tagline, "For what's next," that went along with it, and I think that sums up this product really well. This was Google's attempt at getting Chrome OS to be taken more seriously, not just by consumers, but by hardware manufacturers. And that is perhaps the only successful thing that ever came from this product, because nowadays, you still have your $250 low-end Chromebook, as well as higher-end offerings that cost $700. Heck, there's even a gaming Chromebook now for some reason. Now, in terms of updated models, the Chromebook Pixel did get a refresh in 2015, which added newer CPUs and integrated graphics, doubled the RAM on the baseline model, changed the USB ports to 3.1 Type-Cs, and interestingly, got rid of the LTE variant, instead replacing it with the ludicrous speed model, I'm not joking, that quadrupled the RAM and threw in a Core i7 processor instead of an i5. Both of these were discontinued just 1 year later in 2016, but all 4 Pixel models received software updates until 2018 when Google stopped supporting them. By that point, the company had released the Pixelbook as a successor, which was a laptop-tablet hybrid that sold for around the same price. And all of that brings us to today. So, what can you do with an original Chromebook Pixel in 2025, more than a decade after it first came out? Well, they actually make pretty decent Linux laptops. I mean, what doesn't, right? I guess if you don't count that awful Sylvania Windows CE thing that we explored last year. In fact, Linus Torvalds, the Linux guy, praised the Chromebook Pixel back in 2013, specifically for its screen, and it turns out it's pretty easy to get another Linux distro running on this thing, but we actually don't have to do that because this one I bought actually came with Linux Mint 21.1 already installed by the seller, so we're going to go ahead and fire this up and explore it a little bit. Right after a word from today's video sponsor, Surfshark, who provides a VPN for practically all of your devices, including Chromebooks. So the next time you find yourself getting bombarded with those annoying region-locked messages, or just want to hide your IP address from shady websites, they've got you covered with over 3,200 servers hosted in 100 countries that you can connect to change your device's location in a flash. And unlike some of those other providers, Surfshark lets you have unlimited simultaneous connections from as many devices as you want. Plus, they've got some other cool stuff bundled in, like their alternative ID feature, which lets you create proxy email addresses for those times when you don't want to give out your real one. All of their plans come backed by a 30-day money-back guarantee, and if you sign up at surfshark.com/michaelmjd, you'll get 4 extra months for free with the purchase of a year or 2-year plan. So be sure to check them out, and huge thanks again to Surfshark for making this video possible. Alright, well here we are with the Chromebook booted up, logged into Linux Mint, and yeah, like I said, I was using this a little bit off camera, and it's just actually been pretty pleasant to use. I've been able to watch YouTube videos, just browse the web in general. We're going to do a bit of that here, but we're also going to try to, push this machine a little bit. We're going to download Steam and maybe play a game or two, and just kind of see how it handles that. Because yes, this has a Core i5, it is x86 based, though that 4 gigs of RAM, that's where we're probably going to feel the impact of this older hardware the most, but we'll see how it performs. Now, like I mentioned, it is currently running Linux Mint 21.1, which is not the latest version. I actually have not looked into the hardware requirements to see if the latest version of Mint can run on here, but, I'm sure I could update it if it does support it, or I could put some completely different distro on here entirely, but this is just what came on it from the seller that, refurbished this computer, and so I just figured I was leave it on here for now, because it does have support until 2027, and I did run through the updater and, got all the latest packages and everything. So we've got, the latest version of Firefox, and we're just gonna jump right over to my YouTube channel, and we'll play back some video. This is one of those tests that I always do just to kind of demonstrate, something that a lot of people are going to do on a computer, right, is watch YouTube videos. So we'll go to my latest video as of me filming. So is it possible to run modern video games on Windows XP? The answer is kind of, if you want me to sum up this over hour-long video in a couple seconds. But yeah, so we are currently playing back at 1080p 60. I'll go ahead and just mute the audio and we'll skip around a little bit. Now that I think about it, this probably isn't the best video to demonstrate this because it is just a screencast, so there's not, a whole lot of motion going on. I mean, well, there is motion going on, but not in the sense of something you can see easily, if it's lagging behind. So let's maybe go to my Windows NT on PowerPC Max video, and we'll just let the intro play a little bit. So yeah, I mean, you can see perfect frame rate, and what are we playing back in 1080p 60? We'll go ahead and full screen this and let it play a little bit here. Yeah, I mean, totally watchable. Don't really notice any slowdowns whatsoever. Of course, one thing you probably notice is the aspect ratio taking effect here. The fact that this is 3:2. You do get those bars along the top and bottom. So that is something that you're just going to have to kind of deal with videos because you're probably not going to find a video in a 3:2 aspect ratio. I'm sure there's some out there, but it's definitely not very common. So I won't spend a whole lot of time just going through my own YouTube videos because, well, you guys can do that on your own, and I would definitely appreciate it if you ever feel like checking out some of my other stuff. But yeah, you get the idea, right? I mean, web browsing, totally doable. I just like to use YouTube as an example because, you know, it is a more graphically resource-intensive website than something like Wikipedia. One thing I would like to do that I haven't actually done a whole lot in videos recently is download Geekbench. I figured we could run Geekbench on here and, you know, get some numbers and just kind of see how it stacks up. So we'll let that download, and I guess we can also grab Steam while we're at it. And that finished before Geekbench did. Of course, Geekbench, the installer, looks to be much larger than Steam's here. But we'll go ahead and open up the installer here. It looks like we need to get another package as well. We got to get Xterm, okay. So we will install. All right, and Steam finished installing. So I guess we'll go ahead and open this up while Geekbench is still downloading, because Steam is going to have to download some stuff anyway, so we'll let that do its thing in the background here. One thing I do want to touch on, and this is just the case with pretty much every Chromebook, is the fact that the keyboard layout on here is a little bit wonky and something that you definitely have to get used to. For example, you've got the search key in place of caps lock, and on Linux Mint here, that just kind of acts as your Windows key, you know, for opening up the applications menu here. So there's no like key down here between Control and Alt. You just have, well, Control and Alt, and then all these buttons up here next to the escape key that are just, you know, labeled as like back and forward and refresh. Those just get mapped as your function keys, so F1 through F10. So, you know, that might take a little bit of getting used to because like this button here, which would be F3, is labeled as like the refresh button, but that's actually going to be 2 over is F5 to refresh the page. So, I mean, just the labeling might take a little bit of getting used to, and you might do a couple, like, double takes looking at that being like, wait, isn't that? Oh, wait. But, of course, you can just remap these however you want, but this is just the way that this was mapped with Linux Mint here by default. And there is Steam updating its runtime environment. So we'll move that over here, and gosh, Geekbench, your freaking upload speed is really slow, man. This is taking a while. To download a 218 megabyte file. Maybe there's just a lot of people downloading stuff from their server right now, but we're almost done because I kind of wanted to do the Geekbench testing before Steam. Well, I mean, before we play any games, I'm definitely going to run Geekbench, but we'll get Steam installed and like ready to go. So yeah, and gosh, look at this window is so small. There might be some scaling setting. In fact, let me go into, whoops, not that. Let's just go into settings here and see if there's something like about scaling, maybe under appearance. Window scaling, here you go. Oh, 1x and 2x. Okay, so it's already on 2x. The thing is, it seems to just be Steam doing that. Maybe there's a setting we can change in there, because if I go into accessories here and open up, you know, the image viewer, I mean, that shows up totally fine. So maybe there's something we can change like within Steam. Anyway, it is running and downloading stuff, so that's good. How's Geekbench doing? We still at like 5 minutes? 2 minutes, 50 seconds left. Can you beat Steam? Because I think Steam is totally done now. 9 seconds? Can the Steam login window come up before this? It can. Look at that. Okay, it just finished. So, alright, we'll close out of the Steam login window for now. And let's just open this up. Okay, it requires an active internet connection, which we have. And it looks like it's just doing its thing right now. Okay, yeah, running file compression, there we go. And we're done. This was actually the 3rd time that I ran Geekbench because it crashed the first 2 times and I had to run it again. I also ran it as sudo, just in case. But yeah, it just gives us this link here that we got to click on to actually view the results. So we'll go ahead and do that. So this is the Google link, 538 single core score, 1041 on the multi-core. Apparently it says invalid, it may be invalid due to an issue with the timers on this system. Huh, Well, it did complete the test, so I mean, here's a breakdown of the single core performance in each of these tests that it ran, and then here's multi-core. So yeah, if you were curious, these are the results that it gave us. I went ahead and logged into Steam in the background here, so we'll go ahead and close out of that and close out a terminal. We'll run Steam and maybe download a game or two. The only thing, like I mentioned, the fact that we have such a low amount of RAM is really going to impact that performance. And the really unfortunate thing is the RAM is not upgradable. Like the SSD, it is soldered to the motherboard, so you cannot, well, easily upgrade that anyways. So out of the games I own that can run natively on Linux, we've got Portal 2 and Team Fortress 2 that I've been playing recently, but those are both older games that were actually released before this computer even came out. So I imagine they probably won't have a problem running on this thing at all. But then we got Black Mesa, which is a newer game. So why don't we go ahead and just install that? So we'll play on this computer. Yeah, it requires 28.14 gigabytes. Actually, what was... how much storage do we have free on this thing? Well, that answers that. Unfortunately, we don't really have a good way to expand the storage, I guess aside from the SD card slot, because, you know, we've got USB 2.0. That's the only other form of expansion we have data-wise. Well, Rocket League requires 10.05 gigs of space, so we can just barely download this. So let's go ahead and let's go ahead and install that. Which, of course, Rocket League is not the newest game in my Steam library either, but I mean, what do you think is going to happen if I try to install, like, Marvel Rivals on here? It's just not going to run well. Probably not at all. So this might actually be kind of a good sweet spot because Rocket League is a few years newer than this hardware. And yeah, we can kind of just see how it runs on here. And we'll try maybe one other game as well. One thing I do want to try out too is while we are downloading this, let's go back to Firefox here. I've got my YouTube channel loaded up. I kind of want to try to play a video because I have a feeling I've already been noticing that this system slows down severely, you know, when you got something going on in the background, like downloading a game. And I suspect that is because of the really, really small amount of RAM that we have. But let's maybe go back here and try just to play a video here. And yeah, already definitely taken way longer than it did before. I don't know why I even went back to that video because, like I said before, it's a little bit harder to tell if the video playback is lagging with just a screencast like that. So let's... oh, I think Firefox almost crashed there. Look at that. Oh yeah, you can already tell. Look. Yeah. Trying to run Firefox and download a Steam game at the same time is just not going to be fun at all. Alright, Rocket League has finished downloading, so let's just launch it here and see how it performs. Get a controller? Who plays Rocket League with a controller? Are you kidding me? I can't wait to read the comments about that one. So, it is... oh, wait a second. Did the system just freeze up? I think it did, because I can't move the mouse around. And oh wait, okay, there, it just recovered. It froze up for a second there, and well, now it just froze up again because I'm moving the mouse around. And okay, it's kind of like intermittently locking up, I guess. And now it just froze up again. So all right, we're gonna give it a little bit of time, but this ain't looking good. Alright, well, after about an hour and the system just freezing up multiple times, you can see I just gave up on Rocket League, and we're here in Half-Life, and of course Half-Life runs flawlessly on here. And, yeah, I mean, so, who would have thought, you know, throwing a game at a computer that doesn't meet the minimum system requirements, it's not going to really work super well. And, yeah, although this system does have a dual-core processor and 4 gigabytes of RAM, which are the minimum to run Rocket League, the clock speed of the processor does not meet the minimum, so, you know, it doesn't meet the system requirements, so, yeah. But, you know, older games like Half-Life, I mean, we are getting a few, like, slowdowns, it seems, but it is running, like, for the most part, totally fine, which is awesome. So, yeah, you guys know me. I got to throw in a little bit of Half-Life action here towards the end of this video, even though we're not really doing much because I'm just wandering around here. This is it loading a new thing, isn't it? Yeah, it's just switching between... oh, it says loading down there in the center. Oh my gosh, it's so tiny. Like, do you see that? didn't even see that. I was like, wait a second, it's just lagging there? No, I think it's supposed to be loading something. It is. You just freaking can't see anything. Yeah, again, the scaling is going to need an adjustment on this thing. But, you know, I honestly was really impressed with this machine when I was using it, and I think just as a general purpose web browsing and email machine, you know, the thing it was designed to do, it can still do that very well. Just, you know, you have to install a modern operating system, obviously, because this does not get any new updates for Chrome OS. Another quick thing worth mentioning is Linux Mint probably is not the best choice for a Linux distro to put on one of these things. In fact, I saw a post on Reddit of somebody talking about doing that, and I think one of the first replies was like, yeah, maybe do something other than Linux Mint, something more lightweight, because, you know, you definitely would get better performance out of this hardware if you run a less resource-intensive operating system. But as you saw, I mean, Linux Mint runs pretty well. We were able to browse the web, play at least one game from, you know, 1998, but hey, it works on here. And yeah, I just really like this computer. I was really impressed with using it. I think purchasing it back then, absolutely not. I would not have forked over $1,000, more than $1,000 to get, you know, what was a glorified web browsing machine. But I picked this up for like 150 bucks on eBay. And yeah, I think it makes for a nice little web browsing machine in the modern day if you just put another operating system on it. And well, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to give it a thumbs up, get subscribed, maybe consider becoming a patron or a channel member to get early access to these videos before anybody else. But either way, I just want to thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.